Growing up, like, did you know the mood that the adults were in before you even walked into a room? Like, could you feel it? Did you kind of like adjust yourself or modulate yourself of what you said, how much space you took up, whether you were allowed to have a bad day, kind of based on what they needed from you? Like, you could walk into a room or know even before you went into the room what kind of everyone was feeling. If you did have that superpower, that is a skill that you developed, that type of radar. It kept you safe as a kid. So it was an adaptive strategy is what we would call that. But the problem is that when you grow that up, so like what was helpful for you as a kid, and then you grow that up, that is now probably one of the many strategies that is creating distance between you and the people that you ultimately want to be closest to, like your partner or friends, maybe certain family members. It's probably running your life now in ways that are really ultimately costing you. So let's talk about the fawn response. It is the fourth trauma response, the one that doesn't get talked about honestly that often. I think it's one that explains the patterns that a lot of my clients come in with, like the overgiving, the inability to say no, the constant feeling that your value depends on what you can do for someone else, what some people would call people pleasing. So in this video, we're going to name it, we're going to trace it back to where it came from and talk about what it looks like to actually heal it. So most people know the fight, flight, and freeze. That fourth one, though, is what we're going to talk about today, the fawn response. It was added to the framework by therapist Pete Walker, who wrote a lot about complex PTSD. So kind of just the quick rundown. Fight looks like anger, control, aggression, defensiveness. The body's goal is to defeat the threat. So then we have flight, we have avoidance, busyness, withdrawing, or physically and literally running away. The body's goal is to escape the threat. And then we have the freeze response, which is kind of exactly what you would think about: the shutdown, the going numb, the dissociation, paralysis. We want to disappear from the threat, kind of like, little kids when they play hide and go seek, or at least my kids, they play hide and go seek and they put a blanket over their head and they're like, you can't see me, the disappearing cloak. And then we have the fourth response, the fawn response, the pleasing, the appeasing, the agreeing, the becoming who you need me to be. The body's goal in this response is to neutralize the threat through connection. But what happens is it's not really ultimately about connection. It's the appeasement. So it feels like you're connecting, but there's a big part of you that's not able to be accessed because we're just people pleasing. So fight, flight, and freeze, those are about moving toward, away from, or shutting down. And fawn is different. Like I was saying, it says, I'm going to make the threat stop by making you happy. I'm going to become whatever you need me to be so that I am safe. Fawning isn't weakness. It's intelligence. Again, it's an adaptive strategy. It was the smartest thing that your nervous system could do in the situation that you were in. And so it's not like you should totally shit on, oh my gosh, I can't believe I do that. Oh my gosh, that's so bad. Oh my gosh, this. It's like, okay, let's less of the shaming and the judgment and more of the curiosity, right? The problem is that it was designed for a specific threat. This is why we fawn. It's not like we just do it to do it, or why we freeze, or why we flight, or why we fight. It is designed, it was an adaptive strategy at a period in our life that worked really well. And when that threat is gone, the response doesn't just turn off. It goes with us into every relationship that we have. So what does fawning actually look like? So I'm going to read some signs off to you, and I just want you to notice kind of what lands, not in a like diagnosing yourself kind of way, but again, to be kind of curious of like, oh gosh, like, yeah, that sounds like me. You apologize constantly, even when you did nothing wrong. You can't say no without a long explanation, a guilt spiral, or days of anxiety. You change your personality depending on who you're with. Might be a different version of yourself for every room that you might be in. You feel responsible for other people's emotions when they're upset. It somehow feels like it's your job to fix it. You give compliments or agree with people as a way to de-escalate tension before there's like even real tension. You struggle to know what you actually want because you're so used to scanning for what everyone else wants first. Conflict feels physically threatening, like your heart racing, your stomach drops into your butt. The urge to flee or to freeze, you over-explain, over-justify, and overshare to preemptively manage how people see you. The fawn response almost always has roots in childhood, which again is it's just annoying, And specifically, it develops when One of these things might be true. So maybe love felt conditional. You got affection when you were good, agreeable, helpful, or invisible. Maybe a caregiver's emotional state was unpredictable. You never knew which version of them you were going to get. Having needs, expressing feelings, or taking up space may have led to rejection, punishment, or even a withdrawal of love. You felt responsible, or you actually were responsible for a parents' emotional well-being. You became their emotional caretaker. Conflict in your home was scary or dangerous, so your nervous system learned that keeping the peace was about survival. And when those are the conditions, or at least some of them, here's what your nervous system concludes. My safety depends on their happiness. If I can just make sure that they're okay, then I'm going to be okay. If I keep everyone around me comfortable, nothing bad will happen to me. It's not a character flaw. Again, don't be shitting all over yourself. It is a child doing the only thing that they could to survive, to stay safe. And here I think might be where this might get painful. Because fawning often looks like kindness from the outside. You're so giving, you're so easy to be with, you're so thoughtful. People don't tell you that it's a problem. They reward it. They love you for it. So you never really get told, hey, this thing that you're doing is actually coming from fear, not love. You just keep doing it more and more and more in relationship after relationship after relationship until one day you might realize that, oh my gosh, I have been shrinking myself for so long that I genuinely don't know who I am outside of what other people need from me. And this is what's tricky. People pleasing looks like generosity, but real generosity comes from abundance, from choosing to give. Fawning comes from fear, from feeling like you have no other option. Like if I just get them to be happy, then they won't leave. If I can do this, this will make them love me. Again, these aren't usually like cognitive thoughts. They're usually subconscious. And they're just so deeply embedded into like our nervous system and into our wiring. And that's where it gets tricky, right? Like, how can I tell that line between what is an overflow or an abundance that I want to give, I want to extend, I want to be inconvenienced in this friendship or relationship, and then where is more of that fawning response that I'm just doing this to appease them. I'm doing this to avoid a conflict. I'm doing this so that I don't feel abandoned or I don't. So what happens when a fawn response kid kind of grows up? Kind of what I was just saying, like you bring that nervous system into adult relationships and oftentimes it shows up as codependency. You become the person who manages everyone else's emotional world, the one who senses what people need before they ask again. It's a superpower. It's just, we got to learn how to place it appropriately and when to. The one who has no idea how to receive care. You only know how to give it. Maybe you're the one who attracts people who need a lot of managing because that dynamic feels like home. Like we are drawn to what feels familiar, comfortable, predictable. And here's the thing. You don't do this because you're weak or naive or silly or dumb or you're too much or you love too much or you care too much. You do it because your nervous system was trained from a very early age that this is how you stay loved. This is how you belong. This is how you stay safe. Codependency isn't about being too loving. That is definitely what I thought, though. It is about having learned that love is something you have to constantly earn, and that the way you earn it is by disappearing yourself. Let me say that again. Codependency is not about being too loving or too much. It's about how you learned that love is something that you have to constantly earn, and that the way you earn it is by disappearing yourself. So some of the things I see really often as a therapist who specializes in codependency and relational trauma, the overgiving in relationships until resentment builds, because it will, and then you feel guilty about the resentment. Like, it sucks. Staying in relationships long past the point they stopped being healthy because leaving feels like abandonment. And I'd rather, be in this hot mess express than be by myself. Losing yourself in partnerships, your preferences, your friendships, your sense of even who you are. I see this oftentimes with moms a lot. They have given themselves so much to their kids and their kids are starting to go to college or move out. They're like, oh my gosh, who am I? I've only prided myself on being a mom, but I'm not just a mom. I'm so many other things too. So feeling more comfortable when you're needed than when you were just simply loved for who you are. Confusing intensity and chaos for intimacy because calm and secure feels unfamiliar. That one was really big for me in my kind of recovery and codependency. So if any of that sounds familiar, you are in very good company. Old programs can be rewritten. And that's the most encouraging news, that you're not broken, that you're not stuck unless you want to be, right? So here is what healing can look like. Again, this is not like a 3 steps to success kind of thing, but these are just some things that ingredients, if you will. Notice the fawn response in real time. So before you can change the pattern, you have to be able to catch it. Start to notice when you're agreeing with something you don't actually agree with. When you're apologizing and you don't even know why. Like, why am I apologizing for that person being late? When you're adjusting yourself before someone has even said anything, that noticing, that's not nothing. That is the beginning of what is going to become everything. So I always say, like, start small. When someone asks you, hey, where do you want to go eat tonight? Don't say, I don't know, whatever you want, babe. Pick something. I don't care. Pick something out of the hat. Even as more mundane as like, hey, do you want tater tots or french fries? You're going to say, I don't really care, Olivia. And I'm going to say, just pick one, dude. Okay. Number 2, learn to tolerate. Oh, this one's so tough. Learn to tolerate disappointing people. This is really hard. I don't like this part. This is hard for me still. Probably always will in varying capacities. Fawning exists because at some point, disappointing someone else felt dangerous. Healing means slowly learning that you can let someone down and survive. You're not going to die. You're not going to explode. You're not going to implode. Their discomfort isn't your emergency. That you can be loved even when you say no. You practice this in small, like low stake moments, right? Like don't do any big dramatic boundaries. Just, I actually can't make it. That doesn't actually work for me. Or, hey, that really hurt my feelings. Sit with the discomfort of that. Don't fix it. And then 3, doing the deeper work. Fawning is a nervous system response rooted in early relational trauma. It doesn't fully heal through insight alone. You can't just sit here, read a book, listen to this video, and be like, amazing, I got it. I can do this. You can understand it completely and still find yourself fawning automatically under stress. The modalities that work best for this are the ones that get underneath the cognitive kind of level, the ones where we can read and we're like, okay, yeah, I conceptually understand that, and I can vibe with that, and I can understand that, and I might be able to see that post fact. Looking back and be like, oh yeah, that was a fawn response. But the Lodge, IFS, somatic work, and attachment-based therapies, those are the things that are going to get us more into your body and into some of that like deeper layer. And not just in the cognitive. We're not just changing thoughts like CBT stuff. We are changing what the body has learned to do to stay safe. So you spent years learning to make yourself small to keep the peace. Healing is learning that you're allowed to take up space and that the right people won't need you to disappear. So to recap, fawn is the 4th trauma response, appease and please to neutralize the threat. It develops in childhood when love felt conditional or emotional safety was unpredictable. It shows up in adulthood most often as codependency, overgiving, and losing yourself in relationships. Healing means catching it, tolerating disappointment, and doing the deeper body level work. We are, as Brene Brown says, hardwired for belonging and acceptance. And so you can sit in a coffee shop and read all day long and conceptually understand what everything this is talking about, and post fact looking back and being like, oh my gosh, yes, I totally see how that was a trauma response. And yes, I totally see how that's codependency. And yes, I totally see how that's a fawn response, yada, yada. But you're not going to change because it doesn't just occur here. It has to occur throughout your whole system. And that's the approach that I take. So if you recognize yourself in any of this, the apologizing, the shrinking, the not knowing what you actually want, I want you to know that this is exactly what I do. These aren't like personality quirks that you're stuck with. It's just how it is. Like they're patterns that are formed for a reason that you can change. And so if you're in Florida and you want to do this work, you can go to sunshinecitycounseling.com. You can book a free 30-minute consult with me. I do intensives. Do them in person. We can do them online. The link is down in the description. And if you're not there yet, that's totally cool. Keep watching. Keep getting curious. You're already doing something, which is more than nothing. If this was helpful for you, I would feel so grateful if you could share this. Maybe you could help someone else see themselves, because maybe it's I never had a word for this until right now kind of moment. And that can be a really powerful thing to give someone else. So thanks so much. Until next time, I'll see you later.